Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, is the pressure building up on Nitin Gadkari? Days after NDTV investigates and finds serious questions on funding for his company, sources say the RSS is now concerned that the charges against him are hurting the BJP's image. Is Nitin Gadkari's position as BJP president therefore untenable? And from saying that girls should marry early to prevent rape to how girls shouldn't be carrying cell phones, are India's politicians taking us back to the dark ages? Those are our big debates in the next 60 minutes. But first tonight, days after NDTV broke the story of serious question marks on funding for Nitin Gadkari's company Purti, the political pressure is building up. NDTV has learned that the RSS, who handpicked Gadkari for the top job, is very concerned by the allegations and believes it's hurting the BJP's image. Meanwhile, senior Congress leader Digvijay Singh has written to the Prime Minister today asking for a probe into those who invested in Gadkari's companies. Over the weekend, NDTV broke the story of mysterious investor companies that have put money into Gadkari's firm. The addresses of the 18 investor companies are fake, and in fact, Nitin Gadkari's driver is listed as a director in one of them. Well, the BJP has said that Mr. Gadkari is open to any probe. That's something he said on NDTV on day one as well. But the BJP also hit out at the government for saying that the charges against him will be probed, accusing them of being selective and for getting a probe against Veerbhadra Singh and Robert Vadra.
I don't think ministers should be selective about picking and choosing. As regards the party president BJP, he has himself said any competent authority can investigate into this matter. But I would like to remind in this context that the enthusiasm with which ministers in the Union Cabinet have come to close the case against Mr. Vadra should be remembered here.
Well, joining us now is NDTV's managing editor Srinivasan Jain, who broke this story over the weekend. Vasu, first I'll ask you on the political build-up to this story. We understand now that even the RSS is concerned about where all of this is headed, which would be a serious setback for Mr. Gadkari since he's their boy.
That's right, Nidhi. I think what Mr. Gadkari had hoped when he came to our studios on Saturday in an unprecedented step is that he'll be able to respond to all the allegations we'd made against him and somehow the story would die out. But because there was a general consensus that he couldn't answer all the questions and all the issues we'd raised adequately, and also because the Times of India this morning front-paged our story and carried those details extensively, triggering a further media stampede, the story has got out of control, and that of course has triggered, as we had seen, a cascading wave of reaction that's become a wildfire. And I think that has now led to a great degree of concern within the RSS and BJP circles. Sources in the RSS telling NDTV that they believe that these type of repeated allegations is denting the BJP's image, especially as it tries to pin down the Congress on an anti-corruption plank. We've also seen Mr. Digvijay Singh, as you reported, also jumping in and filing a formal complaint with the Prime Minister. Arvind Kejriwal used the occasion to again bring up the fact that this only proves what he had been claiming all along, that Mr. Gadkari's financial dealings need to be brought under the scanner. So it's become a bit of a free-for-all, and the pressure certainly is now building on the BJP and on Mr. Gadkari to see what happens next, especially at a time when he's just about clinched his second term as party president.
Well, the other important question, of course, is on the investigation itself, Vasu. And when you look at the source of funding, there are serious question marks, there are fake addresses, and Mr. Gadkari really didn't have an answer to many of the questions.
That's right. I think the key thing here to remember is that 90% of Mr. Gadkari's Purti group, a group that he keeps calling as something which is owned by farmers and by the ordinary people of Vidarbha, 90% is owned by shell companies, and out of that 90%, 10% by a prominent contractor, one of the biggest contractors of Maharashtra. Now, these shell companies themselves, as we found when we went out on the ground, none of the addresses that they've given on the Ministry of Companies Affairs website check out. Most of these addresses belong to places like small chawls and similar dwellings and abodes spread across Mumbai and Kolkata, from where investors have mysteriously pumped in as many as 4 to 5 crore rupees. As you said, one of those companies actually has as its director Mr. Gadkari's own driver. His own personal driver is shown as a director of one of those companies which is headquartered in a chawl. So these are all, as any chartered accountant will tell you, classic example of companies which are used to convert black money into white. And while this may be a standard corporate practice in certain circles, as BJP president and as a senior politician, Mr. Gadkari will have to answer hard questions as to where exactly these funds came from, what is the identity of these companies.
All right, Srinivasan Jain, thanks very much for that. And as Vasu was pointing out, and as we've been saying, the official addresses of these investor companies just don't add up. They're basically fake addresses. My colleague Maloni Bhatt went to the registered address of 3 of those companies in Mumbai, one of them which has Mr. Gadkari's driver listed as its director.
सर, आप ये चाल के मालिक हैं। आप मुझे ये बताइए कि नंबर 10 में कौन रहता है? क्या मनोहर पांडसे नाम का कोई आदमी नंबर 10 में रहता है? और जो लोग भी है अभी यहाँ पे, वो कितने साल से रह रहे हैं? क्या आप मनोहर पांडसे को जानते हैं?
देखिए, यहाँ मनोहर पांडसे नाम का कोई व्यक्ति यहाँ पे नहीं रहता। ये प्रॉपर्टी का मैं खुद लैंडलॉर्ड हूँ। मेरा नाम पुनसुर चारण है और यहाँ पे जब से प्रॉपर्टी मेरी बनी, जब से नथमल सोनी रहता है। यहाँ पे कोई ऐसा मनहर करके रहता नहीं।
तो यहाँ पे कंपनीज चलती है ऐसा लिखा गया है, स्विफ्ट सोल नाम की, अर्नवेल नाम की। क्या यहाँ कंपनीज चलती है?
वो रॉन्ग है, वो रॉन्ग बात है। ऐसी कोई कंपनी यहाँ पे है ही नहीं। जब से मेरी बनी है प्रॉपर्टी, जब से वही रह रहा है।
So those are the addresses that are given of companies that are supposed to have invested anywhere between 2 and 4 crores in Nitin Gadkari's company. Now, speaking to Srinivasan Jain here in the NDTV studios over the weekend, Nitin Gadkari really didn't have an answer on the fact that many of these addresses were wrong and many other questions as well.
So who are these companies that have put in all this money?
There are a lot of stakeholders.
Can you give us the identity of these companies?
Neither this company has taken any help from the government. Neither take any land from the government. And the first, I want to
but
again.
But Mr. Gadkari, if I with respect, you're not answering this particular question of mine about the identity of these companies.
100%. I can give the identity. Many of the people I know them.
Okay.
And they are investor.
We found none of those addresses. Those companies exist.
I will tell you. It is lot of companies have changed their addresses.
But these are, sir, virtually all the companies that own your company. So surely there needs to be some. Is this surprising to you when you find that the companies
these are not the company owned by my group? I don't know the details of everybody, and I'm not expect to give you the details about it. And this is not you are not the charter accountant asking me the every shareholder.
Okay, that's fair enough.
So as Nitin Gadkari finds himself under attack, is his position as BJP president untenable now? Has he become an embarrassment and a liability for the BJP, which has taken this anti-corruption campaign against the centre to another level? Well, joining us tonight, I'd like to mention before I go to the guest this evening that the BJP has refused to come on the program tonight. They only fielded Nirmala Sitharaman for sound bites this morning, but the BJP has issued an internal gag order and has not allowed any of its spokespersons, any of its party representatives to be on television programs this evening, which is why you will not see them tonight. Renuka Chaudhary, Congress spokesperson and Rajya Sabha MP, is with us tonight. Normally this is a problem that the Congress has, but for once the shoe is on the other foot. We have 2 senior commentators with us, Shoma Chaudhary, the managing editor of Tehelka, and Aarti Jairath, senior journalist. Also with us, Vikas Singh, the former additional Solicitor General of India. Let me ask Aarti Jairath first. You saw Nitin Gadkari actually in a very unusual move coming here to the studio and trying to give his defense. Do you think, when you look back on that was bravado, or that he came away weaker?
Well, I mean, clearly he didn't seem the clips that we saw and a little bit of the interview that I saw, I mean, he didn't seem to have very many answers to the questions that he was being asked. And, you know, I mean, the point is, Nidhi, there's so many allegations being flung around. You know, I think we need to go through, you know, we need to sift through this, go through this maze and see what the truth is. And I think a probe is very much in order. And a probe is very much in order not only into the allegations against Nitin Gadkari, but the allegations against Veerbhadra Singh, which I think you all exposed on your channel, and the allegations against Robert Vadra, although Robert Vadra is not a politician, but he does belong to a family which is very prominent in Indian politics. And therefore, I think, you know, before politicians get, you know, they already got a fairly bad name in the public. And I think before, you know, the public loses complete faith in politicians.
You need a comprehensive probe.
We need to have a comprehensive probe to see what the truth is.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.